So, welcome to this next session. This is the situation in our last tutorial. And what I will do now is I will save this file to a new one. I already did that, but overwrite this. And what we do now is we want to scatter those assets in our shot. So with a traditional way of point scattering. So what we do now is we delete this layout. And we will go into our grid and make it really large, since we have quite large. I will place an out right in here. And I will zoom out with the camera and change the lighting to a distant light. And of course, we need to rotate a bit. I seriously miss to see the lights, the distant light position and direction sometimes. So make sure it's activated. This will help you a lot. And we can also scale up the guide so that we see the direction of the light. So we will make it even brighter. Let us check. Yeah, it looks good. Save again. And what you need now is a sublayer. The sublayer is, in my opinion, the best way of loading different variants or assets. And what we do now is we go into our USD database, into assets, and I will check the longleaf pine 30 meters, and I will load the longleaf pine 30 meters right from here, and then we have it right here. We will get a warning. This is typical for Houdini 19. It is already in the pipeline to be resolved, so I talked to the developers and they are taking care of it in the future. So you can, this is only because I used multiple outsourced materials in one component, and yeah, you don't need to care about for now. So I have loaded one of the USD files, the longleaf pine 30 meters, and I will save the file once again in case it's crashing. And since we have already rendered with the viewport, and I try to render this asset now, and as you can see, we have our tree. I will plug it into our scene with our lighting, and here we have it. So maybe a lot brighter. The ground plane is really bright currently because we have not assigned any material, so we will do that as usual with the material library. And here we have a new Pixar material, and of course a new llama surface, something like that. Llama diffuse. Llama materials are the most efficient for RenderMan. So they are really fast and bypassing all the things that we don't need to have. Oh, that was the wrong way of doing it. So I will go back to Lab 2, Material Library. And here we have a relative path. And we will assign it to the grid. And now we have it right in here. Maybe we should make it a little darker, something like that. Just for demonstration. I will save the file once again. So we have our longleaf pine 30 meters right in here. And as you see, we have some multiple different variants in this USD asset. And what I do now is I will check all the variants with the explore variant lob, and I will stop the This is highly important, otherwise it could crash. So when we look into that, check out this Explore Variants mode, and here we can see all the variants inside. I use the XZ variant to look at them. We could render them now, but those are the variants that we have currently. And what you have to do is quite easy. We have to create a collection in order to scatter them around. So I use the collection lob. And all what you have to do is you have to link all the assets into the list that you want to scatter from the Explore Variants. So yeah, this looks, so you cannot use this one because this would place them like we see them currently. We need to place this those one right underneath. So drag and drop them right in here. Next line, next line right in here. Of course, we have to make sure. So don't get irritated by the naming that and so on. We only need, this is because of our component workflow. I don't found a way yet to get rid of this entire path structure in the naming. So all what you need to take care of is the first half until the material comes. This is because I exploited the material which resulted in those warnings, but we only need to take care about the first half of the naming. So we have the 20 meter variant, 22 and 24 meter variant. And I will give the collection name and call those tree collection. And the next thing that we need to do is we save the file, of course, and we go back into our grid. And I will not use the 25 points that I defined earlier. I will scatter my own cloud on top. So I use a scatter. You can use all ways to distribute points, and I will set 25 points right in here, and I create a new out. Oh, not a new out, but a new null for out PTS points, out PTS, and this is everything that we want to use currently. And then I go back and I will drop down a instancer, a copy to points. Copy to points, and I will link in the first input. And this is not working currently. This is like we want. And here I choose the point instancer. This is the most efficient way. I will not use the entire stage as a prototype. I will use our collection. And for that, we need to use this sign that you, or this letter that you probably know from the modular function. So this percentage sign. And then we will place our collection. We have called the collection tree collection right in here. And we of course need to make sure that we use the first input primitives, the first input points. Of course we need to give a new name. We call those tree instances. And here the first input. So now we have them right in here. What we now have to do, we need to go back to our explore variants, and we have to keep the spacing at 0 so that all the variants are staying exactly on point on our origin. But we cannot bypass this explore variants for this workflow. I don't find any other way, and this is the most common one I have seen artists using them in other tutorials. So this is a very good way of doing this scattering. So I will go into our copy to points, and what we need is we delete this add and we'll object merge our point cloud from our source geometry. So we go into our grid, into our subnet, into create, out PTS, and here we have our points. And when we go back, it probably should work. As you can see, we use the internal subpoints, which are created right in here. So the internal subpoints are the points inside of this copy. And here you see we have scattered multiple different versions of our tree from the collection, and this is the way to go. What we can do, of course, we can prune our roots. We check a prune right underneath. I will store once again the file, save the file. I will deactivate them, and I will maybe we do this right here. And here we check root branches. It will not work that way because of our long path. But what we can try is we can use an asterisk before and after. This will hopefully work. I never did that, so this is live right here. And something like that, maybe. As you can see, all the roots are gone. This works. So, and we don't need them. And of course, we also don't need the fruits. So a new line, asterisk. We don't need the path, but fruits underscore asterisk, and all the fruits are gone. So we can check this just to make sure. Do we see any fruits? No, all the fruits are, oh no, fruits, oh, we have to write them correct, of course. And now they are deactivated them. The prune has deactivated those fruits now. We have still the warning from before, no problem. I will save the file once again and restart the render. And we get a crash. This is sometimes because of the licensing. Since I only have a single seed license, I will reload the file. We have saved it, no problem. So once again, and we will open the file, and it should work now. As you can see, it's working now. So this crash was the result that RenderMan was not able to essentially drop the RenderMan license fast enough. And because of that, the software got irritated, and well, yeah, that leads to a crash. So as you can see, we have scattered our trees, and what you have to do right now is you have to deactivate the original Explore Variants version. This should happening inside of the copy, but however, it just is not working right. So you go into this Explore Variants and you uncheck this, and this should resolve this issue in the middle. So as you can see, it now looks correct. And this is the way to go. So, and the nice thing about USDs is we can scatter a really big amount of trees. So I will go back into our grid and I will crank up the value to 10,000 points. Oh, that's the wrong one. 2,500 points maybe. So we can check that. Looks like that. And re-render again. And it should update or crash. So once again, this is no problem. There is a fix for that, and I will show you now. Each time when you scatter USD files, you should create a cache. This will prevent Houdini from crashing. So I will redo this step. I will go back right in here. I will crank up the cloud, the point cloud. And what you do now is you drop down an USD ROP. And you cache it to Geo. I create a cache folder for myself. So yeah, you have to create your own. And I call this component scatter tree. Component scatter tree USD. I will render it. You get an arrow. This is how it should work, but it has stored the file correctly, and then you can bypass this one and you can load this component USD again, link it right in here, and this is the best way to resolve those crashes. When you work with instances, always cache them to disk before you try to re-render them. So as you can see, this is something, I think, something about the updates and so on. But when you cache them, it's also a bit faster for redrawing your scene, and Houdini don't need to rebake this entire branch. So as you can see, 2,500 trees, and they are working really nice. So I will go deeper into this wood, closer, maybe something like that. Oh, we are very close now. Maybe I should move a bit up. I will drop down a dome light to have some more atmosphere. Something like that. Maybe that's too strong. Something like that. And of course, we can also drop down a camera. So, and here we can also play with our f-stop values and our focus. And yeah, this should work quite nicely, as you can see. Of course, we should place the focus right in here in front. Deactivate this plane once again. And as you can see, it's working. And this is the way how you can scatter a really, really big amount of assets into your shot, into your scene, and it's working really, really nice. It doesn't matter if you see 2,500 of these trees or more. And what you can do is, when you don't like to have the displacements and so on, you drop down render geometry right in here, and you activate or deactivate what you want, what you like to see. You can just deactivate the displacements. I guess we have some displacements on top here. So just to make sure. Yeah, as you can see, displacement is gone. So when you don't want to see the displacement, drop down the geometry. Make sure that you have put the right path into it when you have multiple of these render geometries. So for our tree instances, we will drop down the displacements only for this group of primitives. And it will also use a lot lesser amount of RAM. So when we look right into our RAM consumption right now, we see we only use 4.7 gigabytes with all those trees. And when I crank up the amount right now, so I will change this once again and maybe move the camera back to our original position and maybe make the plane a bit bigger. So 500 by 500 meters, and we'll maybe do 25,000 trees. We of course have to recache our USD file we saved before and save to disk. And here we have our trees. We reload the file, and then hard to imagine those are really 25,000 points. No, because they are only 1,000 points. My bad. Yeah, we have to rebake it again. So save to disk, reload, and now we have 25,000 points and trees. So of course resave. We go into our camera, maybe place it right here, something like that, and hit the render. Fingers crossed. That everything is working without crashing. I think it should work since we have cached it. The memory is a bit higher now. We have more positions, more different rotations, and of course more shapes. Of course, this will result in much higher RAM consumption. But as you can see, we now have doubled the amount of RAM, even when we have almost 10 times more trees. And you see they are updating really, really fast compared to the amount of data. So in the render screen right now, we have a couple billions of polygons. So we will not wait until this render is complete, so I will stop this process right here. Of course, I will crank down the amounts of points so that you not run into issues when you open the file for yourself. And I will rebake these files, and so I will store these files for you saved, and I will see you in the final big tutorial part where we will build our own file from scratch, our own scene from scratch. I hope you have learned a lot till this point, and I'm happy to build this scene with you in the next chapter. See you.